So in Columbus, Ohio, we're sitting in a temperate deciduous forest right now. The dominating tree species outside are deciduous trees, meaning they lose their leaves in the fall and the winter, and these leaves grow back in the springtime. Oak and maple are the dominant trees, hardwood trees. The topsoil itself is very rich with organic material, so that makes Ohio and many of the other Midwestern states very good agricultural states. You have a dense canopy of trees here, overlaying saplings and shrubs, sizable amount of precipitation, somewhere between 75 and 125 centimeters per year. The temperatures themselves can vary throughout the year. It can get pretty cold in the wintertime and fairly warm in the summertime. And as you can see here, this maybe would be like Ohio in the early 1800s, where you have a homestead, and this farmer cleared this area right here for agriculture, and this would have been the natural ecosystem before he inhabited this area. This video talks about sustainable logging. It's a practice that's used today to try and preserve the timber for future generations and try to preserve these for the health of the ecosystem itself. And we're all familiar with the tropical rainforest biome. For example, what you might find in Brazil in the Amazon rainforest. These are biomes that have a lot of biodiversity, and it's very rich with a number of different species. You have high amounts of precipitation throughout the year. Annual precipitations can be between 200 and 400 centimeters per year. A lot of biodiversity, very warm weather. You can see most year long it's above 25 degrees Celsius, so you're going to have photosynthesis occur all year long. The soils themselves are going to have very little organic material, and that's due to the high temperatures. The microorganisms, the fungi that are in those soils are very active because the temperatures are very high. And so as a result, anything that falls to the floor is gobbled up by any of the organisms that may be living down there. A fully developed rainforest also has three plant layers. They have this emergent layer that's at the top, and these trees are about 50 meters tall. Below that, you have a canopy layer of trees that are about 30 to 40 meters high, and then below that you have the forest understory. This area down here is only receiving about 2 to 3% of the sunlight that reaches the upper levels of the canopy and the emergent zone. When we don't count bacteria, this canopy layer actually contains about 90% of all the organisms that live in the tropical rainforest ecosystem. And you're going to find a wide variety of organisms here. Mammals, reptiles, insects, amphibians, fish, elephants, you name it, you're probably going to find them in this type of biome. And this shows the distribution of the tropical rainforests, and you'll notice that they're all located in and around near the equator, and that's because you have this convergence of warm, moist air. As a result, you're having thunderstorms, a lot of precipitation falling in these areas, and so you have these tropical rainforests developing in these particular areas in and around the equator. This is a nice video from the New York Times. It talks about the rainforests of Paraguay and how they're fading due to the encroachment of human activities. So I invite you to learn a little bit more about this tropical rainforest biome in Papua New Guinea, not only because it's a very unique ecosystem, but also because of its unique history. Kuru, or laughing sickness, was discovered here in the 1950s by Professor Apers. And this is a prion disease similar to mad cow's disease that was transmitted by cannibalism practiced by these native New Guineans that lived in this ecosystem. So I invite you to investigate this a little bit further, because it is a very interesting ecosystem where these humans have occupied it for a great many number of years. As the name suggests, Mediterranean biomes are found around the Mediterranean Sea, but they're also found in the Santa Monica Mountains in the United States, central Chile, Australia, and other parts of southwestern Australia. These biomes are characterized with soil that has little organic material. They get very little precipitation, less than 50 centimeters per year. The summers are hot and dry. Again, the soils are thin, not fertile. There's not a lot of organic material. And the organisms that live here are reptiles or small mammals. Many of them are nocturnal, so they have evolved to operate and come out when the sun is gone, so it's not so hot. Temperate grassland biomes, good example of this. If you watch the movie by Kevin Costner, Dances with Wolves, a lot of it was filmed in a grassland biome in South Dakota. They get a sizable amount of precipitation, usually 25 to 75 centimeters per year. The soil itself has a lot of organic material. That's because many of these grasses are annual grasses. They die off every year. That material gets taken down in the soil and it's used for the next year. You can have tall prairie grasses in Illinois, Iowa, and Kansas, and you can also have these shorter prairie grasses that you would have in other parts of the West as well. Periodic wildfires help maintain the grasses as the dominant vegetation, so that's why you don't have a lot of trees in this area. You have medium to large size animals, you have reptiles, you have snakes as well, but this biome really supports large herds of grazing animals. So in the early 1700s, before the settlements of the earliest Europeans into the West, you had a lot of bison grazing in this area because this was a very nice biome for them. And you can see from this map that grassland biomes are widely distributed all over the globe. A savanna biome would be a biome that we would see in Africa, and these are tropical grasslands in which you have widely scattered trees. You have very low precipitation, or you have intense seasonal rainfall with prolonged periods of drought. And that's what you have here. You have rainfall here in the winter months and this prolonged dry season here in the spring and summer months. Precipitation can range between 80 to 150 centimeters a year. The soil itself does not have a lot of nutrients, and again, this is because it's heavily leached during the rainy season, and also any microorganisms that might be living in there are going to consume any organic material very quickly because the temperatures are warm all year long, so their metabolic activities are going to be very high throughout the year. This again is a good example of what you'd find in the African savanna. The plants have well-adapted root systems that allow them to survive the droughts and periodic fires. You have large herds of animals, zebra, wildebeest that follow the rain. You have large predators, lions and hyenas that are going to follow the prey. Again, temperatures are going to be warm throughout the year and fairly constant throughout the year. This is a nice video that shows the different communities in Botswana interacting with one another in a savanna type of biome. And finally, we have the desert biomes. As the name suggests, very little rainfall throughout the year. In fact, you're going to probably get in most of them less than 25 centimeters throughout the year. The temperatures can vary. It can be hot throughout the year, or it can be warm in the summer months and cool in the winter months. Deserts are found in both temperate and tropical regions. There's low water vapor content in the atmosphere, and these are also typically characterized by high pressure systems or rain shadow effects. So you would have these in the Tibetan Plateau, on the east side of the Himalayan mountains where you'd have very dry air, and you're going to get these desert biomes to develop. The plants themselves are sparse and far between. They are adapted to conserve water by having no leaves or having leaves that can close up, have a waxy layer, and prevent evapotranspiration. The mammals themselves that are there are going to be largely small, nocturnal, that live underground in caves during the day and then come out at night. The temperatures themselves during the day can vary widely, and at the night it can become very cold, and the day it can become very warm. And that's because there's not a lot of water vapor in the air, and so you're not getting that buffering effect of the water in the atmosphere. These desert biomes are found all over the globe. A very good example is shown right here. You have a high pressure system in northern Africa, and as a result you get a very dry air and a desert biome covering most of northern Africa. This video really describes that desert, the Sahara Desert in northern Chad, and describes how the humans have adapted to this and how some of the organisms have adapted to this desert biome. When we talk about biomes, we also have to consider human beings. We live in urban biomes, and you can see here from this map that we have populations that are distributed not uniformly, not randomly, but in specific clump patterns all over the globe. And you can see specifically here in the United States, the majority of the population is located in the East Coast, but you also can notice India has a large population, so does the eastern parts of China. Europe has large populations, this urban biome as well. You'll also notice that here in the Sahara Desert, there are no humans living. That population is to the north and to the south. So just as organisms have evolved to live in certain biomes, we as humans have evolved to live in certain biomes as well. We do not prefer, for example, tundra biomes up in here or tundra and boreal forest biomes. You don't see a whole lot of organisms, human organisms, living in these areas. In desert biomes or in rainforest biomes, you do not see a lot of human activity. Most of us are clumped together in these particular biomes that support our everyday needs. And these needs generally are fertile soil for agriculture and fresh water for drinking. And this figure really summarizes all the major biomes on Earth. You can see here on the y-axis you have temperatures, cold temperatures, warm temperatures, and precipitation down here on the x-axis, dry and wet. And you can see that deserts would be located in this particular area, tropical rainforest would be located in this particular area, and this graph is a really good description of how the different biomes are divided based on their annual temperature and based on their annual precipitation patterns all over Earth.